The video opens not on a stadium but on a phone screen, a shaky vertical clip being passed hand to hand among 6 European soccer fans gathered in a pub before a Saturday match. And within the first 15 seconds, it's clear something has shifted the entire room's mood. The notification reads simply that Flo Balogun, the striker whose sudden departure 18 months ago left an entire fan base in quiet mourning, has just been spotted walking back into the club's training ground. Boots in hand, no announcement, no press conference, just a grainy photo and a caption that says everything by saying nothing at all. This is the moment the video is built around. And rather than explaining it immediately, the creators let the confusion and disbelief play out naturally, across 6 very different reactions, each one given room to breathe before the next arrives. The first to speak is the group's most devoted fan, a season ticket holder who has followed the club through relegation battles and title near misses alike, and his reaction is pure, unfiltered shock rather than excitement, because Balosso's exit wasn't a quiet transfer. It was a messy, public falling out with the manager that most people assumed had closed the door permanently. He keeps refreshing his phone, convinced the photo is either old or fake, muttering that there's no way the club would let something this significant happen quietly. No way a return of this magnitude would leak through a single blurry image instead of an official statement. This skepticism does important work early in the video because it mirrors exactly what the actual fanbase would be feeling in this moment. Torn between hope and disbelief, unwilling to trust a story that seems too sudden to be real, and it sets a tone of cautious tension that the rest of the video will slowly build on rather than resolve too quickly. The second fan to react brings a different energy entirely, one rooted less in disbelief and more in cautious math, because he immediately starts working through what this would actually mean for the squad if it turns out to be true. He points out that the team's current striker, brought in specifically to fill the gap Balosso left behind, has struggled for form all season, and if Balosso really is walking back into training, it raises an obvious and uncomfortable question about who gets phased out to make room for him. This is where the video starts doing more than simply reacting to a rumor. It starts building the actual stakes of the story, because a comeback like this was never just going to be about one player walking back through a door. It was always going to ripple outward into every other decision the club has made in his absence, from squad depth to locker room dynamics to the manager's own credibility. By the time the third fan chimes in, the pub has gone from confused murmuring to a genuine debate, and this fan represents the group's realist, the one who immediately starts questioning the timing of it all rather than the emotional weight of it. He points out that this return, if real, comes suspiciously close to a run of poor results, and wonders aloud whether this is less a heartfelt reconciliation and more a calculated move designed to inject some hope into a fan base that's grown increasingly frustrated with the season. This cynicism doesn't come from nowhere. It echoes a very real pattern in football culture, where returns and reunions often carry as much strategic value as emotional value. And the video smartly lets this tension sit unresolved rather than rushing to explain it away, trusting the audience to hold 2 conflicting possibilities in their head at once. The fourth fan takes the conversation somewhere more personal, and this section slows the video down in a way that gives it real emotional weight rather than just plot mechanics. She talks about what Balosso meant to her specifically during his first run at the club, describing the season he single-handedly kept them from relegation, scoring in matches when nobody else on the roster looked capable of finding the net at all. She admits that his departure felt like a betrayal at the time, not because he left, players leave all the time, but because of how it happened, the public statements, the accusations traded back and forth in the press, the sense that something once trusted had been broken beyond repair. Her hesitation about celebrating his return too quickly gives the video its emotional center, because it acknowledges that comebacks aren't just plot twists, they carry real history, real hurt, and real, complicated feelings that don't simply evaporate because a blurry photo surfaced online. The fifth fan, younger than the rest and newer to following the club, offers a perspective that cuts through a lot of the accumulated history the others are carrying. Admitting plainly that he doesn't fully understand why everyone is so torn about this, because from where he sits, a talented striker coming back to a team that badly needs one should be uncomplicated good news. This generational gap in reaction is one of the smarter choices the video makes, because it doesn't pretend every fan experiences a story like this the same way, and it gives the older fans a chance to explain, patiently and with visible frustration at having to justify their own complicated feelings, why football fandom is rarely as simple as wins and losses alone, and why loyalty, once broken, doesn't rebuild itself on a simple stat sheet. As the group's phones continue lighting up with updates, the tone shifts from personal debate into something closer to real-time reporting, because more information starts arriving in fragments, each one reframing the story slightly. First comes a report that Balogun wasn't actually training with the first team at all, but was there for a private meeting with the club's new sporting director, someone who wasn't in charge during the original fallout. Then comes a follow-up suggesting talks have been ongoing for weeks, far longer than anyone in the pub had assumed, meaning this wasn't the sudden impulsive moment it first appeared to be, but rather the visible tip of a much longer, quieter negotiation that had been happening entirely out of public view. Watching the group recalibrate their entire understanding of the story in real time, based on fragments arriving every few minutes, captures something genuinely true about how football news actually unfolds in the modern era: chaotic, incomplete, and constantly being rewritten as it happens. The sixth fan in the group, who had stayed mostly quiet through the earlier debate, finally speaks up as the pub prepares to head toward the stadium for kickoff, and his comment reframes the entire conversation in a way that lands as a genuine turning point. He points out that regardless of the politics, the timing, or the messy history, what actually matters is what happens the next time Balogun walks out onto that pitch in the club's colours. Because that moment, whenever it comes, will say more than any rumour, leaked photo, or cautious statement possibly could. The rest of the group goes quiet at this, not because they suddenly agree on everything, but because it's the first thing said all night that cuts through the speculation and lands on something undeniably true. And the video lets that silence sit for a beat longer than expected, letting the weight of the comment register fully. With the group now walking toward the stadium, the video shifts into a new phase, one built less around individual reactions and more around the atmosphere outside the ground itself. And this is where the story widens beyond just the six friends to capture something larger. Other fans, overhearing snippets of the same rumor, begin drifting into similar conversations, forming small clusters near the turnstiles, phones raised, the same photo circulating from stranger to stranger, the way only genuinely significant football news manages to travel. An older supporter, easily in his 60s, is shown telling a group of teenagers that he remembers exactly where he was the day Balogun first signed for the club years ago, and that this feels, in some strange way, like watching the same emotional weather pattern roll back in. This brief widening of scope matters, because it reminds the viewer that this story was never really contained to six friends in a pub. It belongs to an entire fan base, each person processing the same fragment of news through the lens of their own personal history with the club. As the group reaches the turnstiles, one last update comes through, and this is the one the video saves for its emotional climax, because it changes the shape of the entire story one final time. A clearer photo surfaces, showing Balogun not in training kit at all, but in a suit, standing near the director's box rather than heading toward the pitch. And the caption accompanying it suggests this wasn't a football comeback in the making, but something closer to a first step, a quiet gesture before any decision has actually been made. The season ticket holder, who spent the whole night refusing to believe any of it, goes suddenly still, admitting that this small detail somehow feels more real than everything that came before it. Because it doesn't promise anything or confirm anything, it simply shows a man choosing to walk back through a door he once slammed shut, with no guarantee of what waits for him on the other side. That small, understated image becomes the emotional anchor the story needed, more powerful than any dramatic headline could have been, because it reframes everything away from spectacle and back towards something human. Someone trying to repair what was broken without knowing whether it can be fixed at all. The younger fan, who earlier struggled to understand why everyone was so conflicted, finally says he gets it now, that this was never really about goals or tactics, it was about trust, And trust doesn't come back just because a rumor spreads or a photo leaks online. It comes back slowly and publicly, one small visible choice at a time, in front of people who have every right to still be angry. The video closes with the group walking through the turnstiles, phones finally pocketed, the debate unresolved, but the tension unmistakably shifted from disbelief into something closer to cautious hope. The final shot lingers on the stadium lights coming into view overhead, the roar of the crowd swelling as kickoff approaches, and the narrator notes quietly that whatever happens next, whether Balosso's return proves to be redemption, distraction, or something messier than either the club's fans are about to find out together, in real time, the same way they always have. The screen fades to black, without resolution, deliberately, because the real story, the video makes clear, hasn't been written yet. And for the first time all night, nobody in the group seems interested in arguing about how it ends, content instead to simply wait and see, together, the way fans of any club ultimately always do.